Today on the Magical Earth, we'll examine what makes living things, also known as organisms, tick. Therefore, we will discuss the general characteristics shared by all forms of life, animals, plants, bacteria, fungi, or protists. Now, there are 7 salient features you should be aware of, may you do so! Mrs. Grin is an acronym that can be used to help students remember the various characteristics that make up Mrs. Grin. These include movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Before we get started, it's important to note that even inanimate objects might exhibit some of these qualities. Crystals can grow. A car can move. Metals can react. But keep in mind that only living things have all 7 characteristics. So, if you base your explanation on motion, you should have no trouble understanding it. Movement is simply a characteristic of living things, whether they are complex multicellular animals like cows that walk around fields, or plants that move only parts of its body like a flower blooming. The process of breathing, respiration, is up next. This refers to the series of cellular chemical reactions that liberate usable energy by breaking down nutrient molecules like sugars. If you're unfamiliar with the term, metabolism describes the sum of an organism's chemical reactions that keep it alive. Therefore, respiration supplies the energy required for all the reactions that are constantly occurring within us. The capacity to recognize and react to shifts in one's internal or external environment is a good definition of sensitivity. This, then, is the concept that we can pick up on environmental cues like temperature shifts and adjust accordingly, by perspiring or shivering. Plants have a wide range of sensing abilities and can respond to a variety of stimuli, including water, light intensity, temperature, touch, and more. Response is their ability to control their internal environment according to the stimulus. Notice how the leaves move according to the light stimulus. The capacity of an organism to regulate its internal environment is one definition of homeostasis. They are able to regulate things like temperature, water content, and pH levels within themselves by monitoring and reacting to changes in their external environment. Growth comes next, and its meaning is obvious from the word itself. This simply means that living things have the potential to expand in size. Or, to use a more technical term, we could say that its dry mass has increased indefinitely. Simply put, dry mass is the mass of an organism once you remove all the water. Growth can mean changing from a kitten to an adult cat for a cat, or it can mean nothing more than an increase in size for a single-celled organism like bacteria. Reproduction, on the other hand, can be defined as the process by which an organism produces more of its own kind. Such as when a mother turtle gives birth to her hatchlings, or when a large bacterium divides into 2 smaller bacterium. The process of eliminating waste excretion is next. It's possible you're not as familiar with this one, but all it really means is getting rid of metabolic waste and extra substances. We produce waste products like urea and carbon dioxide. Getting rid of those is the first function. The second function is to get rid of things that we do sometimes need, but only do so when we have more than we need. Therefore, this would encompass resources like water and mineral ions. Water and mineral-rich ions are essential to human survival, but there can be an abundance of both. Therefore, we must get rid of the surplus. Last but not least, we have nutrition, which is defined as the consumption of food for the purpose of supplying the body with the nutrients it needs to function and expand. In order to obtain the nutrients, and energy we require, it is necessary for most animals to eat, and drink. For microorganisms like fungi and bacteria, survival requires actively transporting or passively diffusing nutrients into their cells. All organisms share these 7 characteristics, and anything that satisfies these conditions can be considered a living thing. We have seen the structure of cells in the previous episode, but one thing all living things share is that they are composed of one or more cells. Viruses, despite being referred to as organisms by some, are not considered to be true living things. Viruses don't grow or excrete over time, and they don't fit in any of the other criteria we listed, so they aren't living beings. This rules them out as living organisms. I really do hope that it was interesting to learn the lore of the magical Earth.